Kathy. Thanks everybody so much for inviting me out to hang out with you guys. I always love being here. It's a great welcoming place. I also feel like I can let a little bit more of my shamanistic side come out. So that's exciting. It's not usually something I show the Methodists, if you know what I'm saying. I want to talk about a couple things. And one thing that I want to talk about is Jesus's most difficult teaching, which is pray for your enemies. So I want to talk about that. But I want to tell you about the work that I'm involved in. And some of you know this. As many of us have multiple side hustles. One of my big side hustle, like my main side hustle, the one that pays my electricity bill, is working for PAD. And that's here in the city of Atlanta. And some of you know about that. And I know some of you drive in from Decatur, and some of you are from Gwinnett, and there's also places in Decatur that are the city of Atlanta because of the Emory Annex, and it's just a weird thing. But some of you do business, you do life inside the city. And Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. until midnight, there is an alternate response besides the police. So you can call us from 7 a.m. until midnight if you see somebody who's in that wheelchair that needs some assistance. Thankfully, that was a moment where humanity paused and did the right thing, right? And I hope we see more and more of that happening. There's a quote, and I can't remember it exactly, but it basically says, like in the time that the new world is being birthed, it's the age of monsters. And I think also during the age of monsters, we also see the rise of sages, healers, and just lovers of humanity. So hold on to hope, hold on to those glimpses. But this is a cool thing. I left the flyers back there too. If you guys want to take one, you can share some information with other people. So anyways, that's my infographic for this morning. I was working at a really large homeless service agency in the city of Atlanta. And I forgot what year it was. It might have been 2015 or 2016, but my personal life had fallen to shambles. I was going through a divorce because I married a Baptist preacher, and that's a whole other story, but you know what I'm saying. But my life was in personal shambles. My father had passed away. My brother had passed from suicide. Like, my grandmother, who I loved, died. Like, my other grandmother was dying. Like, the world was falling apart, and then politically, spectrums globally, like economic issues, like the poor were still being mistreated in the city of Atlanta. So daily my task was to show up at this largest homeless service agency, to check in with people, to make sure things were going, and then to facilitate tours and then have group activities. So one of those groups that I had scheduled during the summer was a bus trip of white folks from a Southern Baptist church in rural Alabama who wanted to come sing songs at the shelter. Which at first when they wrote me, I was like, And then I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, well, it's entertainment. Maybe somebody might jam with it. It might be kind of a cool thing. But I always had this whole orientation towards everybody that came about, like, not proselytizing, about listening to people, about being the ears and the shoulders instead of always wanting to be the mouthpiece, right? Like having an opportunity to really listen and be present. Well, this bus pulled up and these little kids just started, plopping down off the bus, tow-headed white kids, a couple ginger, red-headed, spreckled kids. And they were from the rural parts of the country, and many of them were suffering from some poverty themselves. But they had never seen urban poverty or homelessness. And right when you walked into our shelter was a cacophony of humanity happening constantly, with street pharmacists who were gathered near to kind of sell their wares, as well as other types of hustlers who were trying to sell their wares, which included Juanita, who often wore a very vibrant green miniskirt that showed her butt cheeks. This was sort of the picture as these children from rural Alabama were getting off and coming into the building, and they're setting up their stands, and their choir director starting to direct them, and they're trying to get their little songs together before they sing. And I had talked about them and talked with them about experiencing God in the stranger. Sometimes, particularly for those of us who are from the evangelical world, often thought that we were bringing God somewhere, as if we could ever contain God, or we were the keepers of God, or blah, blah, blah. And so I tried to share with them, in the language that they best understood, that God was already present and working there. And these wide-eyed children who had never seen urban poverty and possibly not seen sex workers or drug dealers were there set up and ready to sing. Just as I heard the choir director lift his hands and say, "Okay," and the children begin to say, "How great is our God," and I hear them singing this song, and these people who are experiencing homelessness, that are many of my friends, are coming in and out for showers and to get a protein bar. Someone comes in the door and says, Beck, I've been shot in the ass." And I was just like, and I do not see any blood, and I'm trying to keep this individual from the children and like trying to protect his dignity and protect their dignity. And he has recently eloped, I presume, from Grady, and has on a wonderful sheet type of garment, but nothing else. And so when every time the door opens, it just whips just a little bit, and you just see his butt. And so I'm like trying to pivot with him and talk to him, and he has on cowboy boots, and that's the only thing besides this garment. And he's like, "Beck, I knew I could come here and you would help me." And I don't know this guy from Adam. And he's like just progressively getting louder and louder and louder. And he's like, "Beck, you are the only lesbian in Atlanta who understands." And I'm just like, and these children are like, "How great is our God?" And his butt is just there every time the wind moves. And I'm like, "Okay, what's your name?" And he's like, "I'm Jeff." And I was like, "All right, Jeff. Well, I don't see any blood on you currently." He's like, "But they did shoot me in the ass." And he's really loud. And I'm just like, "Oh, okay, Jeff. Well, maybe we can try to get you back to the hospital just to get you checked out or something or another." And he said, "Well, I just want to tell you that I love all you filthy lesbians and what y'all are doing. And y'all are just the best people, all you gays. I just love the gays." And I was like, "Oh, okay, Jeff, that's great. That's wonderful. Let's walk outside and just, let's get this taken care of. Maybe I can wait with you as the hospital returns." And he's like, "Okay, then." And so we walk out, and I'm trying to think about saving the children from everything, and I'm trying to think about saving Jeff from everything, and I'm also low-key trying to think about saving me from everything that's going on currently. And then our security guard leans over, and he says, "Beck, Jeff just urinated on you." And I was like, "Oh, okay." At that moment, I realized that God is everywhere around us. In the cursing, in the singing, in the unknown, unexperienced white children that are also suffering from poverty and oppression, whose unknown stories are there. And in the midst of urban Atlanta, with its century-old redlining, with its racism, with its classism, even though everybody says Atlanta is a city that's too busy to hate. And then there's Jeff, who knows that there are good lesbians out in the world. Well, despite my sweet butch swagger, I am in fact not a lesbian. We did not have multiple terms when I was growing up, so it was either, lesbian or bi or straight, and that was kind of like it. I did not know that there was a multiplicity or spectrum of things. I really identify with queer, though. I love it. I know it's been very hurtful to some of the older folks who experienced a lot of pejorative and derogatory words thrown at them and violence. But I just love it. I think it's beautiful. I love the idea of being weird, of being different, of being a nonconformist. Which brings me to a little bit of our story today. So we're going to talk about Paul, and I know Paul relationship with Christianity is very problematic because his words have been used to move forward with things like misogyny, homophobia, transphobia. His words have also been used to condone slave-owning Christianity. His words out of place, out of context, sometimes taken literally, not literarily. Well, today I challenge you to look at these Christian holy texts literarily and not literally. We're not looking at them and saying this is something we should worship. We're looking at it to expose any sort of truths that might illuminate our soul. And actually, I want to go back and discount truths. I don't even like that truth word, right? That's a little weird. But what I would say is, let's listen and see if there's anything that we find parallels or relationships with. So Paul has wrote this book to the Romans. He titles it Romans. And it's a really beautiful book. It starts out with some things, again, that have been misused by some people to hurt other people, specifically those in communities who are gay or queer or who just don't fit in a box. And then he goes on and he talks about social orders, social lives, rules of life, how to live. He talks about who people are who are disciples of this radical rabbi, who are not yet Christians. That term doesn't come along till later. It's not really used a whole lot. These are just loose followers of people who have all different kind of beliefs. Right? I mean, within that early text of people, there are of course, the Essenes that some of you may know about. They are the ascetic types, the ones who lived like up in Qumran, where some of those documents were found. They were more kind of, monkish, right? Then you have the Hellenistic Jewish followers who were very liberals in their understanding of things and enjoyed life and oftentimes were involved in politics. There were the Pharisees who, what I want to say right now, without being anti-Semitic, because sometimes within Christian cultures they will say don't be a Pharisee, which I think is very anti-Semitic. But to understand, the Pharisees were the ones who were extremely devout. So they were all about following in a way that showed their devotion. They required a lot of sacrifice and a lot of self-spirituality, right? So I would say, let's caution ourselves whenever we're in communication with anybody and somebody says that's pharisaical. I think that can be very close to being anti-Semitic because we don't really understand the full context. So we have the Pharisees, they're very devout. And then we have the Sadducees, who were sad, you see, because they didn't believe in the physical resurrection. These were our scientists. These were our persons who were logical. They were thoughtful. They looked at the scriptures. They looked at their tradition. They looked at their spirituality. And they said, what can we apply? And all this other stuff, what can we leave behind? So they were not literalists. But there was all these different folks mixing. And then there were the zealots, who were the praise the Lord, pass the ammunition types. You have a few of them amongst you, right? Little Molotov here, Molotov there. But this is the folks that were like, we are tired of oppression. We want to overthrow the Roman government. They have been horrible to us. 25 years before Jesus had his supposed birth, the Empire of Rome had levied a large tax upon the Jewish people. It was more than 25%. Imagine being taxed at 25%. Some of y'all are like, man, I'm really pissed off about my 12% right now. But 25% just because you were of an ethnic, not necessarily spiritual, but because of an ethnic description. That's crazy. Would we tax redheads? I know some of you redheads around here just got really scared. Like, no, please don't tax me anymore. Will we do that? Will we tax our friends who are from northern Vietnam? So you can see why the zealots desired liberation. The soldiers in Rome had this ability to go up to anyone and to seize their property.
Original ice.
These soldiers in Rome could go up to someone and say, carry my equipment. And you had to submit. If you stood up, you were backslapped. You were hit. The whole notion of turning your other cheek isn't some kind of Pollyannish, whimsical, half-but kind, welcome mat abuse tolerance. It is when I turn the other cheek to this soldier who wanted to hit me, they have to see my face. They are then encountered with the divine right there in front of them. And when I see your humanity, how could I backslap you? Or slap you when you turn the other cheek? If I backslap you and you turn the other cheek, I have to hit you straight on. I have to look at you in the eyes. And I'm confronted with your humanity. So Rome itself, though it had great roads, though it had some good things going for it, it was very oppressive. It went into places, it condoned sexual slavery, it condoned chattel slavery, it took those who had been the victims of its colonization into slavery. Slaves had to buy themselves out. Oftentimes they had women and men and eunuchs working in their temples as sex slaves, and that was the only way that they could pay themselves out of that, was to continue to work. There was a lot going on. And the Caesars had developed a Caesar cult. As a matter of fact, some of the Caesars thought they were so huge and so amazing and so awesome, and they were like, I'm godlike. These are the drawings for my new golden statue that I'm going to put up somewhere soon. Watch me as I renovate the whole Senate here in Rome. It's going to be great. We are going to make Rome great again. So these Caesars, they thought they were God. They had elevated themselves to this godlike status, and they had a Caesar cult. And anybody who did not worship Caesar or empire or government was called atheist. The first time that word was ever uttered, it was in a derogatory, ugly, punitive way towards those who were following this new thing that was happening, that hadn't come into bed with empire just yet and hadn't become the religion of power. It was an underground religion of those who were impoverished, of those who were oppressed, of those who were finding new ways of being. And they had this hope that in this religion somehow that the first would be last and that the last would be first. In that, valleys would be lifted high and mountains would be brought low. And that was not a geological term, but it was a political term in which the poor would be valued, which the orphan, the immigrant, the sojourner, the widow, the prisoner, the weak, the sick, all would be valued, and the divine would be found in community with them. So Paul is writing in all this context, and here in 12, he says, be not conformed to the patterns of the world. He says, but be renewed. He's calling us, or those of us as readers, to not be conformists to these patterns of political domination. He's saying, be different. He goes on to say how we can be different in the world, how we can love people, how we can let go of petty stuff. And you guys, I am so petty sometimes. Like my husband left the cap off of the toothpaste this morning. Oh man, you should have seen me. It was not, you would not be like, wow, Becca's really living into that whole Bodhisattva stuff. No, I was raging. I was like, really, again? Like if you leave the toothpaste off, the cat's going to come in here and eat the toothpaste, and the cat's going to get sick, and the cat's going to go in the hallway, and we all know what that leads to. Anyways, so I love being petty, but Paul says, don't be so petty. Like, let go of some stuff. And then he moves on and he says, pray for your enemies. He says, in doing so, in practicing kindness, you keep hot coals on their head. I know some of you, when you think of your enemies, you're like, I really would like to drop some hot coals on their heads. But what he's talking about, the symbology of the Bible when we talk about hot or fire, is purification. It's not punitive. Like, sorry guys, I'm a Bible scholar and hell's not real, okay? It is symbolic. It is purification. Fire is purifying. And he's saying if we are kind to people, when we practice kindness, then that is purification. That lets them see that, oh, we are human too. We are divine too. Now, this pray for your enemies that Jesus talked about, that Paul's talking about, that the Torah talks about, is not saying that we let toxic people abuse us. This is not saying that we don't practice boundaries. That's not what this is saying. It's saying that we have good intent in our heart, and that we send good intent to people, even malicious, horrible persons. We want something for them. We want the whole world to heal, and that includes them. We want them to evolve. We want them to let go of the pain and trauma that they are holding that created some sort of narcissistic monster that now controls the world banks and blah, 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 and whatever else you want to say. But we want healing to go forward in there. That's a really hard and difficult task. It's so difficult. I mean, how many of you can even pray for your enemies in traffic, right? Like when that a-hole, I'm just teasing, that person made in the image of God, cuts you off in traffic, like what do? Are you like, oh my gosh, you're freaking idiot, you lay on the horn? Or do you you chill out for a minute and say, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe their mother is right now dealing with cancer. Maybe they just got an eviction notice. Maybe they're dealing with some really difficult stuff. How do we foster compassion for the other? And it's so hard, especially in our world of screens, when we think about being online, in the online community. I mean, it is full of violent rhetoric and dehumanization. Yeah. These are things that fascist empires, controlling empires, have always done. To malalign people, to cause hatred, to stir division. If you read some of the details of the investigation around Facebook, they found that certain parts of their algorithm specifically desired for you to experience agitation, aggravation, and anxiety. That's fun times, right? I mean, who wants that? Yeah, let's go do that. That sounds great. No, like all of us. We really want that center inside of ourselves of love and joy and peace. And despite what is happening in the world, we have the opportunity to have a place of Zen, of love, of Christ consciousness within us. I'm so thankful, Patton, that you led us in that moment of centering this morning, and just the ability to shake. I could feel joy permeating. As he began to shake, I let go of some of the residue of the things that were holding me down, and I began to feel my heart just open up. And this is going to sound woo-woo, but I felt like my heart was kind of connecting with your hearts. And in a moment of mystical unitedness, I felt how good your intentions and your compassion for the world could be. And in that moment that you shared, Jan, I said, man, I want to see more of that in our world. This may be the age of monsters, but it is also the age of healers. And it's time for y'all to let your X-Men freaky weird powers start coming out. We can love our enemies. We can pray for our enemies. And we can also stand up to injustice. And we can speak out against power. And when the centurions come, because they will come, And when they slap us, we can stand up, and we can turn the other cheek, and we can show them our divinity. I got a song for you. Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to do a little stomp and clap. Take me back to my Pentecostal roots. Here we go. All right. Well, hey, no God!
Ain't no God.
Whoa, ain't no God!
Ain't no God.
Whoa, ain't no God!
Ain't no God.
Don't scare me!
Don't scare me.
Whoa, ain't no tank!
Ain't no tank.
Whoa, ain't no tank!
Ain't no tank.
Whoa, ain't no tank!
Ain't no tank.
Don't scare me!
Don't scare me.
Whoa, ain't no king!
Ain't no king.
Whoa, ain't no king!
Ain't no king.
Whoa, ain't no king!
Ain't no king.
Don't scare me!
Don't scare me.
'Cause I know,
'Cause I know.
because I know,
Because I know.
because I know,
Because I
the
know.
man from Galilee.
From Galilee.
Whoa, ain't no tank!
Ain't no tank.
Whoa, ain't no tank!
Oh, ain't no tank.
Whoa, ain't no tank!
Oh, ain't no tank.
Don't scare me!
Don't scare me.
Whoa, ain't no God!
Oh, ain't no God.
Whoa, ain't no God!
Oh, ain't no God.
Whoa, ain't no God!
Oh, ain't no God.
Don't scare me!
Don't scare me.
Whoa, ain't no king!
Oh, ain't no king.
Whoa, ain't no king!
Oh, ain't no king.
Whoa, ain't no king!
Oh, ain't no king.
Don't scare me!
Don't scare me.
There ain't no ice.
There ain't no ice!
There ain't no ice.
There ain't no ice!
There ain't no ice.
There ain't no ice! Don't scare me! Don't scare me! Because you all are standing with and in and above and around and all through with that man of Galilee. You're all divine. You are all healers. You all agree to sign up to be part of the Earth School right here and right now for this very moment.
Yeah.
Let's do this ish.